Welcome back to the Nero Show, your home of unfiltered cycling chat. Hopefully the chat you guys are having in your bunches. I'm joined today by Mr. Jesse Coyle, and in today's episode, I'm thinking about selling my Factor. Dave Arthur's gone over 100,000 subscribers for a very good reason. Shaving your legs, how should we go forward with guests on the show, and should Remco be doing a classics season? All right, let's get into it. Can I talk a little bit about Dave Arthur? We do some Dave Arthur chat?
Please do, yeah.
So I'm not sure whether we've spoken a little bit about Dave. I didn't used to watch Dave's stuff very much. In fact, I would say I was quite, not anti it, but I just kind of thought, oh, here's this guy riding around sort of English country lanes with a couple of new bikes. It's all kind of faff content. I don't need that in my life. Gone back into Dave's channel recently. Went over 100,000 subscribers as well. He's killing it. He's nailed it. I'm a total convert to what Dave is doing. Look, here's the thing with it. He's not reinventing the wheel with a bike review, but he's giving me just the right amount of information that I need on any bike. He seems to be able to get the new bikes quite quickly as well, which is always good. You know, it'll probably pop up on GCN, and then you'll also see a Dave Arthur video popping up, which is always good. But he's got a real set routine for how he does it. And also the production value of his stuff in the last sort of 3 or 4 months is vastly improved. He's clearly got someone else filming him riding as well now. So he's got a moto person working with him. So he's not just doing the Chris Miller of holding a GoPro out in front of you and talking to it. So that's a massive step up. The audio quality on the bike, I know this is not interesting to most people, but it's like, okay, I'll put it down to this, right? If I see a Dave Arthur thumbnail come up of a new bike review, I'm clicking it. Mm-hmm. I'm clicking it.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's doing it.
I am too, but I was apprehensive at first too because Hambini's dunked on him many times.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we got some...
I don't know if there's some offline beef going on between the two, or they had a little tiff in the background, but Hambini always sort of, dunks on him. So I was always like, maybe not watch. And then I watched a few.
Your team Hambini, were you?
No, well, I was. And then I started watching a few, and I'm like, okay, I kind of get the Hambini thing where it's not really a review.
No, it's entertaining.
To call it a review is a bit, it's not super technical with it, and also not super harsh, but it's entertaining, and you kind of, I guess, if I had to say, you get the flavor of what he thinks of the bike, the vibe of what he thinks of the bike. And yeah, like his videos pop up, and I'm a fan. Now I click them. I'm straight away click them. And so yeah, I think it's easy to sort of go, oh well, they're not harsh enough on the bikes, and they that sort of thing. But sometimes you just want to, what's this bike about? What's it about? That sort of thing. And he nails that really well, and it's a nice way to spend 10 minutes of your day.
Yep, totally agree. You get just, like I said, you get just the right amount of info from them. I will say this though. I'm sorry, Dave, but your sneakers, can you go and buy some new fucking sneakers? I don't know what you're doing with those things. You're just trudging around English country lanes up and down with horse shit, but it's time. You're over 100,000 subscribers. Please go out and get some new sneakers.
I never noticed.
You never noticed.
Never noticed. You were going to say there was like fast food. He's like fast food.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was the analogy I used, isn't it? It's like drive-through. It's like drive-through fast food. You know exactly what you're going to get. You can click on it. You can get it any time of day or night you want. You know exactly what it is. I mean, he could release a video tomorrow about the Cannondale Lab 71, and I could pretty much tell you the script for the video. That's totally cool. I'm totally on board with it. I just want that information, and I want the nice shots of the bike, and I'm more than happy. I'm glad he's existing.
You watch his video and you go, this doesn't look that hard to do. Pretty simple with nice shots of the bike. And then you so on one hand, you're like kind of jealous because you're like you went back and watched some of your reviews. I think you were saying like, wow, mine are like nowhere near as good as this, but that's the art of it, isn't it? Getting it to look simple, but actually be really hard to pull off.
Yeah, I think it's the way he manages to sort of give you the information without it feeling like he's just reading a spec sheet. Because that's what I find. Like anytime I would do a review and I got into what I thought was specs chat, I just got bored, and my narrative would then go off on some bizarre like kind of trip that no one actually really cares about. Chris cared about it at the time, but it's not really relevant to 99% of people. And I think Dave just manages to keep it like on track the whole time. So it's a little bit like the way Marquez Brownlee does a smartphone review, and you think, oh man, that looks easy. But then you kind of try and do a smartphone review. No chance. Yeah.
So speaking of UK YouTubers, and Dave Arthur's great, but there's ones that just, we'll be honest, there's ones that just sort of blow our minds in terms of, it's an envy potential.
Oh, it's jealousy.
It's an anger.
Yep.
Chris Oppie does these videos and there's almost no editing. It's not entertaining. The chat's not that good. And they're still cracking 20, 30,000 views. And I just look at that and I'm dumbfounded. And they get recommended to me. So the most recent video was him talking about the state of racing in the UK scene, which is basically, it was 3 minutes of a bit of B-roll and different stuff, and then like a 15-minute monologue, and it's on like 30,000 views. And then the other one he did that came up, you sent to me, was a couple of weeks ago, was a race review of him just sitting in the back of his car talking to the camera. Like, objectively not a good video. And it got like 30,000 views. Whereas I think part of it is if you uploaded that channel, it'd get 6,000 views and just end it. But is that because he's in the UK? The UK audience love it? Like, and then it's not fake views either. They get good likes.
Yep.
There's good amount of comments.
Here's an argument, and I've been thinking a lot about this, all right? Maybe he comes across more genuine than if I sat down and did that. Maybe there's something in the way he presents it that we don't get. Maybe we're too cynical, like we're too blown out by whatever it is. But he is, and like you said, they're genuine views. It's not like this isn't crap. And so maybe there's an authenticity to him that, I just don't have. You just don't have, that people resonate with, and they resonate with it really quickly in his videos, even though it's like what we would regard as the content of what he's talking about and where he's doing it and how he's doing it isn't particularly good. His personality or something comes through and that's what's doing it. Like maybe he's just got charisma that we don't have.
Maybe he does. Maybe it's not just the production value. The topic's not entertaining. Maybe you're probably right. There must be something about him that people
must sort of resonate with him, Yeah. I do want to quickly mention, so Harry Sweeney is an Australian pro. He has now a YouTube channel as well, which is always good, cool to see. I was kind of impressed. Got someone down there with him doing a training camp who can fly a drone and is willing to go along in his rides and shoot him and all the stuff that he talks about and that kind of thing.
So I saw a rumor that it's NorCal's editor, Ethan, that also edits Harry Sweeney's vlogs. Inside baseball gossip for you. I think that's potentially. I think that's true. So that's where the edit's getting done. Apparently,
it wouldn't surprise me. Like none of the pros edit their own stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, nor would I particularly expect them to. Maybe, but yeah, like I didn't mind it. I mean, you're seeing a few of the guys doing it now. I mean, Darryl Impey's added himself to the equation of pros doing it. I don't know. Like I still. As far as actually what they talk about in the videos,
it seems like his channel is more stuff I think you would watch. Like it's kind of funny because as much as I can say the production value of a Chris Oppie video sucks, good production value doesn't necessarily make a good video.
No.
And when I watch a Harry Sweeney video, I've got the finger on the arrows. Anytime there's cinematic B-roll, skip. I don't care. I'm not watching a Harry Sweeney vlog to get nice B-roll. So as far as I'm concerned, it just depends on what the channel is. I mean, he could strip all that out. I just want the bits where he's talking about what he's eating and the nutrition app he's using and the training he's doing. And that's kind of what someone's watching a pro for. Whereas someone else, you kind of need like a vegan cyclist vlog. You need the cinematic shots sort of thing. So I don't know. I feel like he's getting good views, so I won't say too much.
Yeah,
He's
no,
doing well.
fair play to him. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, guys, what are you guys seeing on YouTube at the moment? Have we picked out the best things and the worst things? Let us know down below. Okay, let's talk bikes. So I am thinking of selling my Factor Ostro VAM. Oh, I need a sound effect in there, don't I? Okay, let me explain, all right? So bought the bike 6-7 months ago on the back of writing all the devels, etc., blah, blah, blah. And the reason I'm thinking of selling this is, and this is not relevant to most people, it's just me sharing my story, blah, blah, blah. The reason I'm thinking of selling this is I feel like I've turned into this like quasi-ambassador for Factor. And it's not that I'm not getting anything for it, but I don't feel like there's no future in it. And I know there's no future in it because I've reached out to Factor and they're like, no, we're cool. We've got all we need, blah, blah, blah. And when I say like quasi-ambassador, so on any given week, I will get half a dozen Instagram DMs like, what's the Factor like? What's the Factor like? Blah, blah, blah. And I answer most of them, all of them if I can, relatively positively most of the time, I imagine. In fact, some of the people asking me are like, I heard it's like kind of shit. What do you think? And I'll mostly tell them, no, it's kind of good. And the tipping point for me was this week, actually, when like Grant at GC Performance put that video up about the Factor, and he's like, oh, Chris Froome and Chris Miller ride this bike. And I was like, shit, all right.
Wow.
Chris Froome, multi-million-dollar ambassador contract, and Chris Miller went and bought the bloody thing, and Factor aren't interested in him.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I reached out to a few people, and I was like, and even people who were sort of a little bit involved in Factor, and they're like, what should I do? And they're like, oh, maybe you should make another video about the bike. I'm like, okay, like, what do you mean? Like, oh, make another review. It's like, so make an ad. Even if you look at that from a business sense, you're like, well, why would I do something for free and then ask for something afterwards because they've already got the thing they wanted? Do you know?
Yeah.
It's not like if Factor came to me and said, oh, we'll give you lots of new bikes and now you make a review about it. I'm happy. I can do that. I can sit down in front of everyone and do a bike review and say, Factor gave me this bike and here's my review of it. I feel comfortable doing that.
So you want to sell the bike out of spite? Pretty much, because you're sick of them. And I think I'd love to just push back on you, but I can understand. You're like, fuck this. I'm like giving these recommendations to all these people for this bike. They don't want to come and play ball, and that's annoying you. And I think fair enough to want to get rid of that. But I would say, I mean, what's the solution here? If you go out and buy another bike, you go out and buy a Canyon. You're then going to be answering people's questions. What do you think of the Canyon Air Road? And then you're going to be like, well, fuck you, Canyon. Why don't you, like, how is it ever going to end? Unless you go and buy, okay, my solution here, my suggestion would be buy a bike, either a new bike or a secondhand bike that you like, that you think performs really well, vinyl wrap it. Go screw all the brands, vinyl wrap it all in black and put a Nero Show logo on the side of the thing.
Is that doable?
Yeah. I think it would be.
I like that idea.
So there's that Bunny Hop Cycling do the wraps. I reckon you just wrap it. Get the bike that you want the most, and you wrap it. But then, so what would you get? So what's taking your interest?
Okay, so not quite a snob yet because I feel like I'm not a snob because I ride my bike a lot and I train a lot and I race a bit. So I kind of feel like I'm not a snob, but I'm definitely a frother, and I'm a frother because I've come from riding basically an Asian no-name brand for 3 or 4 years, and I don't want to go back to it, mate. I don't. I'm done. I want the warm embrace, the warm, cuddly embrace of a generically massive conglomerate brand that's going to hug me and give me and wrap me up at night and sing me songs. I want that. So where do I go? I don't actually know the answer. I do. I hate that I'm saying this, but I do think there's probably performance differences. Like, I know you totally disagree with me, but I've drunk enough Kool-Aid now that I do feel that I'm.
Well, so here's the thing, right? I think it's kind of a sad, because I said to you, like, why don't you just buy something secondhand, or buy something more on the value side of things? Because every friggin' man is dog influencer, cycling influencer gets supported by a brand and is, I hate the term, is then a sellout, if you want to call it that, and is then advertising a bloody $15,000 bike. Dime a dozen. We don't need more of those. We need more people on racing at the good level, performing well on a $6,000 bike, on a $5,000 bike. When you post a story on Instagram, what bike are you on? Or what does the person at the local crit see you on? It's not just about like getting the mid-level bike because you just can do it for a video and then you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to ride this.
But I can't.
Like it's actually, you are choosing to ride the value option because it is just as good as the top level. Now, you're obviously just flat out not interested in doing that. But that's kind of what I would think would be cool for you to do. Go the value route, because everyone's on an expensive bike. How many people out there, name one good cycling influencer that's not on a top bike?
I realise I am a walking contradiction, Jesse, because it was only weeks ago that I was sitting in front of you talking about the value and the performances of a titanium bike and how it was very comparable to the flagship carbon bike that I was riding. And again, I reached out to Mosaic. That was a bike that I was borrowing from a bike shop here in Sydney. And I reached out to Mosaic and they were like, no, not interested, which was, this one actually really hurt me because it didn't hurt me, but like I walked into that bike shop to give the Mosaic back and there's a guy in there, literally in there going, oh, I'm just finishing the paint scheme for the Mosaic that I bought after watching your video. I'm like, right, cool.
Okay, not to big up you, but I think the audience will agree. I think it's very strange. Like, you must be doing something wrong with how you're contacting these brands, because the fact that you can't find a bike brand to give you a bike just to ride.
Yeah, I hear you. And maybe I am crap. You've also got to think, like, what are we doing right now? We're having a chat that, well, no one else on YouTube is having this chat, and they're probably not having it for a very good reason. Like, a brand would look at this and go, like, shit, these guys are loose cannons. Like, what are they going to talk about next? I don't want to get involved in that. So, I don't know, whilst both of us think this is important chat, it's interesting chat, that no one else is having it, so therefore it's interesting, but maybe it's kind of detrimental in the cycling industry for us in the long run.
You would be creating enough value to justify that. And this is not some weird beg to get a bike, like, fuck that. But, like, genuinely, like...
I do think a lot of it just comes back to where we live. Like, and we've said this in the past, like, because we're in Australia, you don't deal with people at kind of global levels. You're basically dealing with Australian levels, and people at Australian levels don't have marketing budgets. They get told that by whoever the global people are.
And you can see that as well. Like, when GC Performance mentioned that you ride the Factor, it's probably because he assumed you... I'm guessing he assumed you had there's some sort of relationship there. There's not. You just bought the bike.
Not to change the subject up completely, but I mean, I appreciate that. And I do want your comments on that. Mostly just shut up, Chris, and deal with it. But how long, like, I know you're sort of in that sort of same place at the moment, but like, what is a time frame for a bike? What do you think a time frame for a bike is?
It's hard, isn't it? Because it does come into the price. If you're buying a bike and then 2 years later you're getting the itch and you want to upgrade, geez, that $15,000 bike really does look expensive when you then got to sell it for $5,000 in the second-hand market. I think 3 years. So if I'm looking at a new bike, I'm kind of looking in that price going, well, I'm probably going to want to buy a new one in 3 years, I would say. I'm not sure if that sounds like a long time or a short time, but to be honest, like, if you've been on a bike for 3 years and the new, the 2026 models come out, you're going to be looking at those going, I really want one. So for me, it's 3. What about yourself?
It's really murky now, because the days of what I would have always said to people, which is like, you get a frame and the frame might be the frame that you have for 5-6 years, and maybe you upgrade the componentry throughout that to give you that new bike feeling. I feel like we're actually moving away from that, and we're now moving more and more to bike package, ride the bike package, and new bike package. So we're just going more down to that sort of route. So I think we're in real flux of that at the moment, because I normally would have said frame for 5-6 years, componentry maybe 2-3 years, and that will give you the new feeling.
That's a good point. That's because nothing fits. I
mean,
if you're on you can't just change the seat post.
Bars and stems. Bars and stems.
What are you going to do?
Most of the brands now are doing in-house wheels that are designed to go with that particular sort of setup. Even cranks now are sort of basically coming with that type of thing. So yeah, I think it's a really, really awkward place, definitely.
So in terms of the performance then of these new bikes, just to carry this on a bit further, because I've put my money where my mouth is, I actually bought a new secondhand frame. I bought a secondhand Giant TCR Advanced SL frame, which I will be building up. Now, I said this to you when we were talking about, because you were also looking at a new bike. And you were like, well, there's no way I could ride that. Like, I'd get dropped on a Tuesday night Heffron if I was on that. And I can't tell who's out of touch here. So, am I out of touch? Because I genuinely still think same wheels. If you're on the 60mm wheels, you're still running integrated aero bars. Just the frame. I genuinely don't think you would notice the aerodynamic difference between a 2018 Giant TCR and your Factor Ostro, given the same other components, right? But you are convinced that you are losing especially at Heffron. You're turning a corner every 30 seconds. You're rolling turns. The wind's going every which direction. I honestly don't think You would notice it. You convinced it.
You rode your 30 mil wheels at Heffron a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
What did you say to me?
Oh, they're crap. Yeah. You notice the aerodynamic difference in 30 mil wheels when I'm using on 55s. I agree. And I've got a set of 80 mil wheels coming, actually. So I'm not saying aerodynamics doesn't exist. I'm just saying all the other bits being equal, does the frame set make a difference?
What is a bike? No,
I mean,
you know how crap you felt that day?
Yep.
That's how I feel every single time I go to that course. You almost came a little bit down to my wattage, right? So when you're down there, you're in this, and maybe it's in your head, but you are totally in this space of like, I can't put a fucking bike camera on my bike because I'm out the back door. Like, and that is, I'm sorry, like, that's where I'm at.
No, whoa. I agree. So the scenario was, it was going down the straight at Heffron, cross tailwind, you're doing like 50k an hour in the wheel, in the draft, and like with the 30 mil wheels on, I could notice like, this sucks. Like this is the hardest I've ever fought to hold the shoe down straight versus having the 55. So I understand, I get it. I just don't know if the frame is making the difference there. And okay, in a time trial, different story. In a wind tunnel, different story. I feel like you're really down the Kool-Aid and like, I couldn't ride a TC. I'd get dropped, Jesse. I'd get dropped. And I don't see it. But someone's wrong here.
Yeah.
Someone's right and someone's wrong. And I honestly, for the life of me, don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah. No, I think I think we can both sort of disagree with each other in that space. And you'll know potentially pretty soon. Like, get that TCR built up. What are you going to build it up with?
Well, I'm just taking the parts off my current bike, putting them on. So it'll just be Tegra Die 2. I'll have the Vision 5D bars, and I do have a set of 80 mils coming, which I'll run. And I think that will be that's in my head. I honestly think that TCR with the 80s will be just as fast as a Scott Foyle on a Tuesday Heffron, in that conditions where it's not a time trial.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I could be wrong. If someone's managed to somehow test that and tell me I'm wrong, go ahead.
All right. Let us know down below, guys, who's right, who's wrong. Should Chris sell his Factor offers down below? This is one big second-hand bike sales pitch, isn't it?
It's all a rouse.
It's all a rouse. Oh, yeah. All right. Let us know down below. Yeah. Small bit of pro cycling chat. E3 was it? Yeah, E3 was the three up, the three main boys in there, Wout, Van der Poel, and Poggy. You didn't watch any of it.
I did. I'm like, where is this going? Because I've got no insight to give on it. So yeah, let's roll.
Major froth on that event. Everyone really enjoyed the fact that, look, we're super lucky to have a Tour de France rider in there. Okay. Mm-hmm. Can I just put a big bit of pressure? I think we all need to put pressure on Remco to join that three-way party and get him into that four. If we can get a four-way with those boys, that is generational classic season as far as I'm concerned. Like, Quick-Step are irrelevant in this entire Spring Classic season unless Remco gets involved. I mean, imagine Remco in that four. Oh, I could totally get around that. So Remco, get off your Giro program, get you on a Spring Classics program.
You don't need altitude. Get out the back of Belgium. That's toughen you up. You don't need this altitude hotel crap. Yep, I'm on board. Get the four-way boys rocking around. I'll watch. It'll be very, very entertaining.
And I do come back to the thing, like, here's one for you. If Poggy wins Flanders, greatest rider of all time, and it's a bigger deal than him winning multiple Grand Tours and Tours. Like, to have a guy being competitive in that event and have won multiple Grand Tours, it blows my mind. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the fact that he's even trying to do it for me is just, can we all just keep supporting him? Because I'm really worried that he's going to listen to you and he's going to hear you go, oh no, he needs to be leaning up and prepare. Poggy, I don't care how you do at the Tour this year. It's your classic season for me is make or break, I love it. And most of us all do. I promise. So don't listen to Jesse Coyle. Keep riding Spring Classics.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's my pro cycling chat.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
I appreciate those takes. Thank you.
No worries.
Pop quiz. What's the most watched piece of road cycling content in the world?
Someone riding into a bin chicken.
Not just yet.
Not just yet.
Give
No,
it
I don't
another
know.
month.
I don't know.
It's not the Tour de France. It's not Francis Cade. It's not GCN. It's this guy, Mackenzie William. Haven't heard of him? I'm sure people watching this video have seen. It's this sort of wellness influencer, but he rides on Zwift and he makes these Instagram reels, these TikToks, these YouTube shorts of him basically just setting up and riding on his trainer. It's like if Patrick Bateman decided to get into Zwift, it's him. And like the views he gets on these things. If you go on YouTube and you search cycling and you sort by view count, there's a few, those like free ride mountain bikey videos. They're sort of at the top. The first road cycling one is him. Awesome indoor cycling setup, ASMR, 50 million views. It's basically him rolling out his mat. It's like the ASMR clicky sounds. I think he's sponsored by Zwift as well. They've gotten on board. And yeah, like pretty crazy that the piece of road cycling that's reaching a wider audience is...
What am I watching? What's
This
happening?
is like when you show your dad a TikTok. Look at him. Chris is like, what?
Why am I still watching this? Get off it.
50 million views.
Oh my God.
It's crazy views.
Like, yeah, okay. Chapeau YouTube algorithm. Well done. Well done.
What percent of the audience do you reckon shaves their legs?
YouTube analytics don't actually give me that, which is a bit disappointing. I'd say 74%.
Right. Yeah. I'd put it around there. Yeah. 3/4.
Primoz isn't one of them.
No. So how far out from a race do you shave your legs? This is what I'm dealing with here. Oh.
Can't answer, mate.
Can't answer?
Can't answer. Can't answer.
Techno boy.
I zapped them. I zapped it off.
You've been zapped.
I've been zapped, yeah. So, look, back in the day, I would have been, if it was an early morning race, then I would have been the day before. But if it's the day, if it's, you've got a shower in you in the morning, then I would have gone that day.
Wow, that close?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because it's like, I get the thing where you shave the legs, and then for the 1 or 2 days after, you get the itchiness. Like shave your legs, the next day you're riding out, you're like, oh God, it's really itchy. So I'm thinking 3 days out. So today's Wednesday. So I'll probably shave today. And we got our event on Saturday. So give it 3 days to come through again.
Just
and then
sink
you
in.
get a nice clean look without the itch, I would say.
So you're a slightly hairier member of the community. So I just can't grow beards, don't really grow hair. So in fact, I was probably the last person who actually needed to laser. But
to laser off.
I'm not going to sit here and preach it again, but it's like you put that in the show notes. I'm like, who cares? Like no one, I'm like, oh, actually no, most people do that. I just don't even think about it. Never even think about it. And it's so not, everyone's like, oh my God, you got no hair for the rest of your life.
It is. Well, what are you going to do, right? You turn 60, you're rocking around your Tommy
Couple of
Bahama,
years.
you're out plowing the fields down at the farm, and you hairless, shiny legs. What are you going to do then?
Just hairless, shiny legs.
Just rock it?
My daughters have only ever known me have hairless legs, so they'll never question it. No, I don't know. It's just tapping away out there. I will say, if anyone is planning on doing it, it really does hurt. So be prepared for that. And the other thing is it actually matters who does it for you. So you can get, like, it's like any cosmetic surgery thing, basically. Any Joe Schmo can do it. And they just get this laser and they're zapping away. So there are good, like, skilled people at doing it and just crash and bash people. So I luckily had a relatively good person doing it. But yeah, be a little bit aware. Check your Google reviews before doing it.
Find the right beautician technician.
Do you shave then during winter? Like, what do you do now?
Oh yeah, year round.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate that look when it grows through again. Ugh, yuck. It's just like, you gotta clean shaven.
Well, maybe you're an advertisement for it. So you mentioned we've got this event coming up this weekend. Now, we've had a look at the weather forecast for it. It's going to start at 8 a.m. and you'll probably be 4 or 5 hours, something like that, event. Sort of an alpine area. So we're talking about 6 degrees to 16 degree range for a Fondo. Now, what are you thinking in terms of your gear that you're going to wear, your kit? How are you going to play this? There's no team car in this operation. Self-sufficient, but taking everything into account. Talk me through your thoughts.
I hate being cold, so I always tend to overdress. The bit I'm stuck on is, do you go arm warmers, gilet, or just go base layer and then just winter jacket over the top and just pray that you don't overheat in the last hour? Because the winter jacket is the nicest feeling, especially on the start when you're rolling out. Does keep the chill off, but potential overheat. That's what I wore at Barrel. Just the winter jacket at the end. I just had it unzipped, flapping around, which isn't very aero. So that's a downside. But that's probably, if I can, I'll check the temperatures, before we leave. But that's my ideal base layer, winter jacket, and then just knee warmers.
I think there's another aspect you need to think about here. Okay, so everyone's got their favorite kits, their favorite jersey, their favorite bibs. Like, I really want to run the Nero coaching kit. I want to rep it. Like, I want it on display. I like people seeing it. People see me in it. We can talk because they might know us, etc., etc. I don't want to wrap that up. I don't want to wrap that up in something that people don't know, and then there's less bantery sort of stuff happening. So that's playing in the back of my mind, and I reckon everyone has that because they'll have it's not there. They don't want to be seen from YouTube, but they might have their favorite club kit, their favorite jersey or whatever it is. And it's like, you kind of feel like you want to wear that almost no matter what. So I'm leaning towards, as much as possible, trying to just rep the kit and sucking it up a bit.
That's where you get into trouble, because you end up underdressing. He's like, well, I don't want to cover this lovely jersey I've got on. And then you're freezing for the first 3 hours. Risky move, yeah.
Which I think I can potentially overcome with a good, solid, smart base layer selection. That's my hope here. But yeah, we'll see. Like you, I do have that nice winter jacket that I would run. And the way this, because it's essentially a Fondo that's kind of chilled for potentially 2 hours, you could just be noodling for like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yes,
so
high chance of noodling.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, let us know your thoughts, guys. 6 to sort of 14 degree, 4 or 5 hour event, potentially a couple of bit of drops of rain.
The problem is, anytime you bring up clothing for people are like 6 to 16, that's summer.
Jersey and bibs.
Jersey and Nicks. Don't be a pussy. That's Jersey and Nicks. Like, people, it's just infuriating. It's like, no, that is cold. You're not a hard ass because you don't dress properly. Like, this will probably be in the back end of the video, so we can get a bit more personal now, can't we? Getting guests on the show, we're kind of at a loss here, because when you get a guest on, you got to do it virtual, because how many people are there living in Sydney, Australia that could come on? Not many. So you got to do it virtual, which you hear like big podcasters talk about all the time. Is like, I do not do virtual shows. You have to come into the studio. And I can kind of see why now. It's really hard to get it to flow well and get the chat well. For those of you that aren't aware, like when we recorded with Vegan, when he came on, like those recordings are about 2 hours long. And then to cut them up into a show length, to make it 45, 50 minutes is just, it's a lot of work, and then it doesn't flow that well because you're cutting it up. But it's just the nature of doing it online. So what do we reckon? Us two just bantering along, or do we need the guests to come on? Is that adding anything that's worth the fact that it is then online?
I don't know. I kind of feel like there are some topics that we can talk about that will benefit from there being a third voice. Definitely. I think we need to maybe be more specific. Not that I thought the chats with Vegan was super cool. We'll definitely get him back on again. But I feel like we can do less of this just random chat and be more specific about what we talk about that's right in the wheelhouse of the person who's there, and we can kind of value their opinion more. And I know this isn't necessarily the way you like the show to play out, but it's always going to feel more like an interview when you're just doing, even if we just did this virtually, it's going to feel more like an interview, because you can't start talking over each other.
I can't do this, because then it's like you're talking over the person.
Correct.
Definitely.
And it just becomes you talk, me talk, you talk, me talk. And from the perspective of the people in these chats, it becomes this thing of like, I talk and then I sit there for 15 minutes listening to the other person talk. So it's hard to sort of get involved and engaged. But yeah, coming back to the thing, like, for example, like if we got the Lantern Rouge guys on, we could definitely do something. And I think specifically talk about podcasts and how they built the podcasts, and we could definitely get some chat about that going. GC Performance, I'd love to get him on and maybe talk about the bikes that he's seen come into the shop. Which ones does he really rate? Like, talk us through what value you're seeing. I mean, I think he's got some interesting stuff that he can add to it. But ultimately, mate, I do think it's going to change the dynamic when we have those people on from this. Yeah.
Is that a show episode though? That's kind of the thing when you get a guest on it. At the moment, we're kind of like, okay, let's get a guest and let's try and do the show with the guest's input. I feel like it's just doesn't really work because the whole point of the show is it's bantery and it's quite short. Whereas it seems a waste to get a guest on and then not sort of go down their alley. But then it's not really a show episode, is it? That's just more of a, it's
an interview.
Like a tangent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a really, really good point, and something that I'm looking at right now, like in terms of this channel, right? Do I change the name of the channel? Do we change the name of this channel to the Nero Show or Nero Cycling? Because, it's that's what obviously the direction will be. And then let's say we do, okay, for example, let's say we change it to the Nero Cycling or something like that. Then potentially this is the Nero Show. People know, right? Okay, the Nero Show is Chris and Jesse doing their usual thing. And then maybe there's Nero Show interviews or Nero Show featuring. And then you have the opportunity to have the guest. And people then know that that's a separate piece of content. It's like I put that video up after the vegan show of the clip of him talking about his veganism, because I kind of felt like that chat got buried deep in the interview, quote unquote, and it got lost. So I thought, maybe we pop that out and put that in its own standalone thing. Maybe that's easier to do if the channel is a bit easier for people to kind of navigate because there's different types of things. So yeah, definitely. I don't know.
Yeah, or we could call ourselves Nero Cycling Network. That could work. NCN.
NCN.
Yeah. We can go
definitely
for that.
Go. We'll let the HR department. We'll inform them, and we'll have to let finance know and management upstairs.
Terry, just dial this down. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Upstairs. Yep, got that under control. And actually, yeah, I'll get another. Thanks. Yep. All right. Yeah.
But that vegan clip, for example, just on that one, that was actually because like when you cut that down for the show to make it show-worthy, it lost the context of it and it lost the actual information that people were, if people were really into that and they left this in the comments like that was crap, that vegan segment. So you re-uploaded it with more of the sentences left in. But then we can't do that for every topic because the show would be 2 hours long. So yeah, this is just, I think we were just figuring out the whole guest situation for the show or for the channel and how that's gonna work. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, let us know down below, guys. Really interested in your thoughts on this, like in terms of the channel name, splitting all these things up, how it sort of plays out for you. Love to hear your advice. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you are listening on a podcast player, do make sure to leave us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to bump that like button and hit the subscribe. We will see you next week.
See ya.